and welcome everybody to this week's podcast. I am your host, Rachel Griffin, founder of Heart of Home. My sister Hannah can't make it today, but I am very excited to welcome our guest speaker, Julia Deney, and she is the CEO and founder of Sense-ational and she specialises in creating clothes that are sensory friendly for children, which I think is absolutely incredible. So welcome, Julia, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so today's podcast is about sensory sensitivities and bonfire night. And I thought we could get started really by finding finding out a bit more. So you can see this is going to be fun about Julia and her journey and how she got started. So, Julia, how did you get started with this? Like, what was your experience of sensory sensitivities and how did the idea come about, really? I'm really intrigued to know.
Yeah, it was definitely a combination of things, but I was majoring in fashion design and kind of very separately from my major, volunteering with my sorority and in the local community. And we ended up partnering with a local autism preschool and resource center there, like local to my college. And they brought up a lot of sensory challenges to me when they would find out that I was majoring in fashion design and I was interested in children's clothing. And it was never something I had heard of or even considered, but really heard from a lot of the parents, the teachers, the therapists there, a lot about different struggles their kids and students were facing. And so I really started it, I'd say it's just like an independent study that I was really doing to try to find solutions really specifically for these families and for this school.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized there was not a lot of resources out there. I really wanted to kind of like pull stuff together for them, and there wasn't a lot out there. So I really got intrigued by the fact that so many people were saying it was a problem, but no one was really creating a solution, and began designing and prototyping some initial designs in partnership with the school and working with their staff there. But I wouldn't say I really took it into creating a business and really putting it out there for everyone until I graduated. And it was COVID. I graduated in May of 2020. And so
Wow.
the fashion industry was shut down. So I ended up going and working in special education in Maine, actually, so a completely different state. And I just saw like how widespread these sensory challenges were and how they were really impacting children's learning and ability to kind of move throughout their day in all aspects, and knew that this was something that I could take some of these initial designs and prototypes I'd created and find a way to put them out there to try to help kids, not just where I was working, but really worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And I think that's it, isn't it? You can have a plan for your life, like doing fashion design, and you just curveballs come, don't they? And they
Yeah.
divert you. But actually sounds a bit like it was meant to be, having those experiences with those children and see and not only that, but actually working in that field and seeing firsthand the challenges, that must have had a huge impact on you and how you went forward then. So
Oh, definitely.
so you graduated in 2020, and then how long did it take to like put together some of these designs? Did it take very long, or did you already have some things in the works?
Yeah, I had some things that I'd prototyped out in college. I think what took the longest was trying to figure out how to take those that I had just sewn myself in this studio at my university and try to connect with the factory and try to figure out kind of all the aspects of actually creating a business and not just being someone who,
Yeah.
walked into studio alone and created something, and
Mhm.
getting that really manufactured and having everything to the quality we wanted it with all the different details. So by the time we actually launched, like I actually got the product in hand and could start selling it, it was April of 2022. So about 2 years.
Yeah, it is surprising, isn't it? The amount it takes to get all of these things, every little detail
Oh,
in
yeah.
place, and like you say, the right quality as well.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of children they use different tools to support sensory needs,
Yeah.
and in the beginning there was a lot of talk about ear defenders, and my daughter just will not wear them. She hates
Yeah.
the fact that they stand out and everyone can see. Oh, you need ear defenders, and also they were quite uncomfortable on the ear. So
Yeah.
then we found out about loops. I don't know if you've heard of loops,
Yeah,
that you
they're
place
great.
just inside the ear. And I think it's great that more and more people are exploring alternatives.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a bit about the most popular clothing that you've put together that has really benefited some children?
Yeah, I think the biggest design and our most popular has actually grown out of the problem that you just talked about, was that noise is really bothersome, but headphones and ear defenders can also have their own sensory challenges and
Mm.
challenges everywhere else. So like I would have students that we'd put them on and they'd love them for about 5 seconds and then they'd get thrown across the classroom because they just could not wear them. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but noise is really bothering them and is really hindering them from being able to participate in certain activities or be in certain class environments. So I actually created a hoodie that has a material sewn into the hood that helps block some noise. And then it also has an eye mask that can pull down. So it can be like a full sensory break on the go if they need it.
That's
And that's
amazing.
definitely our most popular, I think, because so many people struggle with noise. And also, it can be so universal. I always say, like, adaptive clothing and things that meet sensory needs can also just be comfortable and great for everyone. So, like, that hoodie is like great for plane rides and travels and taking naps. So, I think it's the most popular because it's really, really great for sensory needs and then also can just be so universally loved.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I mean, like for myself, I know that after a long day in work, well, I suppose at any point really, I like to have the curtains closed. I'm a bit of
Yeah,
I call myself a ninja because I like walking around the house in the dark.
that's awesome.
But I don't know why. Even down to my laptop screen, I tend to have the brightness turned down a bit. So,
Yeah.
like you say, we all have sensory needs, and I think that that hood and everything sounds great for me because I could just bring it down if everyone wants
Yeah,
the
bring the
curtains
eye mask
open. I
down.
can just do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, fantastic. And I think the other key one I hear about is labels on clothing. You know, when you have the
Yeah.
labels and they talk about irritating. So
Oh,
how
yeah.
do you find that work? Because obviously a lot of companies need a label to show for like washing, machine washable and tumble dry. So do you have labels on your clothing or have you come up with an alternative or?
Yeah, we kind of did an alternative. So everything's printed on so that there's not actually like a tag or a label or something that's going to be painful or irritating. So we found a way to just print it on, which definitely in some materials super easy, like in a t-shirt or you'll see it in athletic wear when you can print it right on that inside of the fabric. That's really easy. Where our factory struggled was on like the hoodies and the joggers when the inside of the
Mm.
material is textured, they can't print it on. So they were like, well, we'll just put a tag in those. And I was like, no, we're not going to do that.
No.
So it takes a little extra innovation and found a way to just like add like flatly sew in a patch of the fabric the other way so you can print it on. And so those were kind of all those
Mm.
little details that definitely like added to the timeline of figuring it out. But the tags was definitely the universally hated experience and what everyone hated about their clothes universally across everyone we talked to with sensory needs, and honestly even without, like no one enjoys the tag in their shirts, so we definitely had to make sure we got rid of those.
No, I think that is fantastic. And like you say, like something that might seem like a very minute detail, it makes a huge difference. So
Yeah.
it's great that you fought for coming up with an alternative, coming up with a good solution. Because I know that the families definitely appreciate that kind of thing. Absolutely. Are there any items of clothing that you haven't started but would like to branch into or?
Yeah, I think definitely coming from a design background, I can just always be thinking about new items and stuff I'd love to get into production and into development, like when I'm able to do that and when our company can do it. But
Yeah.
there's definitely so many different areas of sensory needs and different tools that can be used and all these things that I would love to be able to design into, whether that be chewing or adding socks that can be really bothersome,
Mm,
different forms of fidgets that are incorporated in hidden ways. So there's
yeah.
definitely a lot that would be in the works that I'd love to be able to do as soon as we basically can afford to do so as a small business.
Yeah, it takes time, doesn't it? Especially when you've already created some fantastic products, but it still takes time to get the word out there and let
Yeah.
people know all the good work you're doing as well. So yeah, I definitely get that. On our side, in terms of sensory needs, the app we've got a prototype of it, which I'm really excited about.
Amazing.
And there's a sensory tool analysis kit where you get a profile for each child and a sensory analysis for each child. So if you
I love
have
that.
any professionals that have never met the child before or support workers, they can learn everything
Yeah.
they need to know,
Mhm.
including communication needs before meeting the child as well.
That's really
So
cool. I love that.
Yeah, the idea is to take the pressure off the parents because you probably had a
Right.
lot of conversations with parents about that.
Yeah, you just say it over and over and over and try to
Yeah.
communicate things. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely
and
hard.
guaranteed, as soon as they've gone and like half an hour goes, you go, "Oh gosh, I didn't tell them that they're scared of dogs or they can't cope with this,"
Right, right.
and then you're like, "Ah, I need to tell them," you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully, with a lot more work, we'll have that ready soon, hopefully.
Yes, that's
But
so
like, yeah, I
exciting.
totally get where you're coming from. It does take a lot of time and a lot of
Yeah,
creativity, to get these things going. So that's
definitely.
fantastic. And have you had a lot of parents that kind of use these things? Like, have you had a lot of feedback about what they like, what they don't like, or?
Yeah, what's been really great is one that I was working in special education even while launching it and after launching it for a while. So I got to really use them in the classroom and kind of get the feedback kind of directly from the students and the wearers of the clothes, even if they verbally
Brilliant.
couldn't give feedback, really being able to like see that behavior change, seeing if they liked it, seeing if they liked wearing it. So I got to see a lot of that hands on and then being able to just connect with local parents to try them out and get feedback. And what I love about the community we've been kind of building online and that I try to foster on our website is just always wanting feedback and wanting stories and wanting to hear what your challenges are so we can design new products and then also improve our current products. So, for example, our hoodie that we were talking about, based on customer feedback, we're now currently working on making it in a new fabric. So there's like another option because everyone has different sensory needs and preferences.
Yeah,
So kind of
yeah.
adding a different option in this next production run, adding in pockets and thumb holes and these little details that were all from customer feedback of that these little
Wow.
details really make a big difference for them and would really make the product better. So it's definitely been really cool to get a ton of feedback and slowly just think about the ways that we can change it every time we have to make the products again and do a next production run.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, in terms of you were talking about, socks and things like that.
Yeah.
My little boy, he will not keep socks on. He cannot cope with them. He won't keep his shoes on. As soon as you get him in the building, they're off,
Yeah.
And I know Crocs has been something that a lot of kids like. Oh, I don't know how I
Yeah.
feel about Crocs, just because it's like, oh, but I suppose it's something I might have to consider using.
I know
Um,
so many kids love them. It is hard depending on how active they are. Like it's so great for kids who struggle with all other shoes and love the feeling of them, but there are also so many kids that then end up tripping in them, and I'm like, ooh, like it's
yeah.
also so sad. Their Crocs are a hard one because they are so comfy, but there are definitely certain settings where it is hard and they're almost just like not quite appropriate. So I totally get that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a little bit reluctant to try the Crocs.
Yeah,
But like you say, you never know new solutions for these things all the time. There's always new
yeah,
ideas coming out.
they always pop up. Yeah,
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, like the chewies as something that I get for my little boy because he loves chewing on everything. The
yeah,
problem I've had with them in particular is like they come on like a string, like you can hang them on your neck and things. He
yeah.
won't chew the actual chewy, he'll try and chew the string.
The string. Yeah,
You chew the chewy, chew it.
yeah,
Yeah. So again, I think it's always trying to meet that sensory need, and I think for parents who live it day to day, it's like it's never just ticking a box and then that's the problem solved. There's always another challenge and there's always
yeah,
another solution to find. And I think that's why it's so vital to have people like yourself that explores these different options for
yeah.
families. Because some people say, "Oh, have you tried this?" And you try it and it doesn't work, and you think, "Oh," and then you
Like,
try
dang
something else,
it.
and
Yeah.
something else, something else. But no,
It's
it just
definitely
makes
trial and
such a
error.
huge difference for families. It really does. So we
Yeah, I
really
think what's great
appreciate
is,
it.
knowing that everyone has different sensory needs and they're going to prefer different tools and just being able to create like as many options as possible so that families can find that one thing that really meets their need and they like it and it's appropriate and it works and it just all comes together. So it's always just about having options. And I love being able to think about like all the future options we can offer beyond even what we currently do.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, the fireworks are starting, and I have noticed, and I am quite really pleased about this, whether it's because of being more aware of the fireworks, affecting animals and things. Either
Yeah,
way, I'm glad they're starting to do these fireworks that have no noise. These are
it's
things that people are
awesome.
starting to sell, and I'm just thinking, that
Yeah.
is really good. But actually, there's some firework displays that'll just use the loud ones anyway.
Yep.
And I was thinking about how, you can have a family of children that, some that are neurotypical that don't have sensitivities and some that are neurodivergent, and how
Yeah.
much of a challenge that must be going to do firework night and knowing that it could cause a potential meltdown or it could cause distress. So
Yeah.
what kind of clothing, like obviously you mentioned hood, so that would be a good thing to use.
Oh,
Are there any
definitely.
other
Yeah.
things you've got in mind that you think would be kind of handy for that kind of setting or?
Yeah, so we actually have a t-shirt that built into it has an adjustable compression lining. So it's kind of like a compression vest that you'd wear on top of your clothes, but it's just built in and super easy. You don't have to wrestle them into it. You just tighten it whenever they need it or loosen it when they don't. And I think in a lot of like distressing scenarios, especially if you're going to a new location and they're already feeling on edge, it can really
Mm,
comfort that anxiety. It really gives like a hug feeling that can really just like calm the nervous system. It'd be the same as if you're like sleeping with a weighted blanket. That's kind of all the same
right,
sensory input. So it's just that
right.
tight hug feeling without having to actually give a hug, which that human touch and contact can sometimes be overstimulating in and of itself. So it's nice to be able to
Right.
get the sensory input kind of without having to have that human there hugging you and
Yeah.
giving the squeezes. So that can definitely be really calming in some of those overwhelming environments, or anything that's new and causing kind of that anxiety and unsureness and just dysregulation. So I definitely think that could be a really great option also.
Ah, that sounds fabulous. It makes me think of like it's like a weighted blanket but on the go.
On
So
the
that
go,
sounds
yeah.
that sounds incredible. I love that because yeah, it's surprising how quickly that they can respond to something that's triggering for them. Whether it could be like I mentioned earlier, dogs barking,
Right.
or just too many people in a crowd. Just to have that quick kind of compression hug, like you've said, to help calm
Yeah.
and regulate. I think that's absolutely amazing. And yeah, I think because some children, like my little boy, he loves tight hugs and like
Yes.
wrestling around. Um, but my older daughter, she's like kind of like a robot, like
Yeah, she's like, oh, good. That's true. Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
a
there's definitely
hug,
like the
but
two sides. Yeah.
yeah, it's very tap tap.
You're like, okay, thank you.
Oh, fab. So aside from like the families you've worked with, do you have any friends or your own family that maybe have children with a neurodivergence, or is it simply just your experience working in that place with families and their kids?
Yeah, I think kind of coming from working with those families and then kind of seeking out, like families I babysit for that have neurodivergent children. I think it's something that started as kind of like more of a job, and I kind of got into it because of the kids I was working with, but it definitely became very personal, and a lot of those relationships became very strong, especially the ones I built outside of school. I mean, your relationship with the kids are really close in school, but not always the parents when you're support staff. So it
Yeah.
was definitely really cool also building some of those like really personal relationships from even back when I was in college and starting the independent study, working with some local families that I'm still connected with and will still like comment on our social media and our kind of our original customers and original
Oh,
fans, which has been
amazing.
so cool. So it definitely became really personal, and I definitely consider a lot of those families now friends and kids, and so it's definitely personal. But going into it, it's definitely not something that I sought out because I saw a personal connection. It was almost like just sort of all came together like that. It was just little
Yeah,
things that
sounds
built up.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. It sounds like different pieces kind of started coming into your journey and then became a full
Right.
puzzle like that's
Yeah,
completed. It's like,
exactly. Yeah, it
wow.
was a very like just listening to what was happening and just building and going as I went, which was honestly really cool because I never kind of saw the end path. I was just going
Yeah.
with kind of where I was needed and what like interests me and how I could support the people I was building relationships with, and it really all came together, which was kind of a cool journey.
That is amazing. I love that. It's so intriguing because I'm like on the opposite end of it. So my personal experience is what has fueled me. So
Yeah.
both of my children are autistic,
Oh.
completely different,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
different lots of needs, different professionals, and that's what
Yep.
got me to consider, oh, there's got to be something easier out there because there's just too much
Right.
information coming in.
Oh yeah.
And that's what got me started. I thought
That's
I can't
awesome.
do nothing. But yeah, it's incredible how just your experiences and seeing those needs, you decided
Yeah.
to give it a try, and then all of a sudden you found yourself with this amazing business. So
Yeah,
that's
it's been really
incredible, and
great.
now you've got that kind of enthusiasm from spending time with those families as well, which is incredible.
Oh
Whereas
yeah,
I,
definitely. I think it's been cool to kind of build not just a business, but it's really because of the benefit. I was definitely not someone who ever went into college or went into life saying I was going to own my own business. As a fashion design major, I mean, people even ask you because they're like, oh, are you going to have your own label? And my answer was always very strongly no. I was like, why would I do that? I could just have a salary and work for one of the 100 other fashion
Wow.
companies. But it's just something that I really fell in love with and see the impact for, and just the need for the product. You know, if it wasn't
Yeah,
a true need and the products truly weren't helping, I wouldn't be starting a business just for the sake of it. It really
yeah,
is because it's needed. And I think that's really cool because I think in the hard times of starting a business, that's what keeps me going.
absolutely. And it's known as having a positive impact on people as well, which it absolutely is. It's incredible. Oh, fantastic. So is there anything that you would like to talk about? Any new products you've got coming up that you want people to know about, or are you happy to talk about anything else? I'm happy.
Perfect. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that we're definitely adding in more adult sizes. So for parents who want to match their children, or children who grow out of it, or just parents with adult children with sensory needs, we're
Yeah,
slowly adding in those sizes. So we'll be able to have our sound reducing hoodie we talked about and matching sensory friendly joggers that also have a magnet pocket that doubles as a fidget. Those will come in both
brilliant.
kid and adult sizes. So that's all available for pre-order right now as we're kind of working on that next batch and that new fabric with those updates we talked about. But those will be in kid and adult sizes in a few different colors. So that'll definitely be a fun addition and get good customer feedback on.
Oh, fantastic. Because you know what? We always hear about early intervention and how important that is for children. But actually, we often need to remember as well there's children who have grown up into teenagers and adults that maybe
Yep.
didn't get those interventions and could do with a lot of support. And again, these are adaptations to help them with day-to-day life. So I think it's incredible that you're branching out and you're making sure you cover those as well. So that's really, really exciting. That's
Yeah,
fabulous.
it'll definitely be great.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for sharing your journey. I'm really pleased to have you
Yeah,
talk with us about it because I think the more people learn about what's available, the more help they can get, isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah, because I often have conversation with parents and they're like, "Oh, have you tried this?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I didn't hear about that, so I'll go try it." And I was actually speaking to a parent the other day who said about their young person struggling with the ear defenders. So I mentioned the
Yeah.
loops, and she was like, "What are they?" Like, it's surprising how things are out there, and unless you tell people, they don't know
Right.
about
They
it.
don't know.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'll be excited to share about your clothing and about the hoodie because I think that hood
Oh,
it
that's
sounds
awesome.
amazing. Like, not only can you
Yeah.
reduce the sound, but you can just go, right, I'm out,
Yeah,
I'm
just
out.
full, like if you're in the grocery store and they can't handle, just full shutdown, break
Oh,
anywhere you are, which is nice, or a restaurant, wherever it is. You don't necessarily, as you talked about, it can be hard for families that, you have kids with different needs and kids that want to be in places and experience things and some that are overwhelmed by it. So try to meet
yeah.
those needs as much on the go as possible and keep everyone together and doing the same things is definitely the goal. So I think something like that has been the best seller because it is so versatile like that.
Oh, it's amazing. And yeah, compression on the go as well. Absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, no need to like remember all the different tools and all the bags and dig through and make sure they're
Yeah.
with you and not forgotten and not lost. It's just like as simple as we can help make parents' lives and still give the kids the tools they need is the whole goal.
Fantastic. Absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for joining me. And I'm sure everyone will enjoy watching this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so fun.